money, she buys herself a first-class trip, joining her shallow sisters in the deep end of Lake Tahoe. And I'm going to see if I do it again, but just a rub. And there you go. And we get all 4 aces. Maybe you'd like to see it in your very own hands. What about your... It's I-N-P-O-S-S-I-B-L-E. Now, if that's the Jack of Spades, that would be impossible. My golly, they don't want to bet. Because sure as you bet, it's going to be the last place you expected every single time, and that's the illusion. But you're not going to show it just yet. You just show that the first card is traveling. Good job. Good job. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. An interesting thing, you know, in some of the techniques in gambling are so amazing that if you strip away the gambling and all the confusion that they try to add to it to turn it into a gambling device, it actually looks like trick photography, some of the techniques that they use. I'll show you what I mean. Take the 3-card Monte, for example, which just makes a use of 3 cards. Now, I want to boil it down to its barest minimum so we can trace this technique down and really see what happens. See, if I were to place that card onto the bottom like this, and if I were to slow the technique down enough for you to be able to actually see what happens, it would start to seem like trick photography as it melts to the center. But of course, if you do it at natural speed, it actually seems to be exactly where it needs to be. I'm going to turn the cards face up so that you'll get a perfect view. And this time it's down on the bottom just like this. There'll be no question in your mind what the situation is. And yet if I give it a little bit of a shake just like this, you actually see that card melt up through to the middle position. That's why they never do it face up, of course. Now, in the 3-card Monte world, even if you would swear that that card was in the middle, I mean, even if you would bet your own money that that card was in the middle, that's the very time when you don't want to bet. Because sure as you bet, it's going to be the last place you expected every single time, and that's the illusion of the 3-card Monte. I'll show you one of my favorite things. It starts with a randomly selected card. Anyone, if you don't mind for me. Yep, there you go. There you go. Very good. And I'm going to take the rest of the cards. A little bit of a process here, and then I'm going to shuffle some of the cards face up, some of the cards face down, and we're going to mix them completely. You're my guy to make sure that I don't do any funny stuff, no funny finger-flinging things going on over here. Okay. No getting past you, is there?
No.
There you go. That looks pretty good, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah? Oh, very good. I'm impressed myself.
I know you are.
I'm going to turn these over, but I have a very low threshold of impression. So now I'm going to take these and I'm going to shuffle them face up and the face down.
Right.
And that looks pretty good, doesn't it?
Yep.
And push those cards in just like this. Now I turn them over one more time and I want to shuffle face up and the face down. And push those cards flush. There you go. Face up and the face down, face up and the face down, face up and the face down. All I have to do is cast a shadow over that deck of cards, and every card will turn itself the right way. Each and every card except for one card, and one card only, and that's going to be your selection. I didn't have you put it back in. Is that your card? Is that your card?
Yes.
Oh, well, it's going to be easy to find, isn't it? Well, there it is. Well, no, I tell you, hey, how about this? I tell you what. I mean, it's going to be easy to find because, I mean, there it is.
Right.
How about I tell you what that card is by the process of elimination? That'd be pretty good, wouldn't it? Okay, here's what I'll do. I'll take this shuffle deck, and all I have to do is wind the deck up. And it works pretty much by itself. Each and every one of those cards is going to turn itself the right way, each and every card except for the ace, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, jack, queen, king. So it's the ace, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, jack, queen, king. That must be the 8 of spades. Works every single time. Works every single time. Thank you for joining us on Volume 6 of Easy to Master Card Magic. I'm Michael Ammar, and I'm your host, and we're going to look at some of the finest creations in card magic of all time. We've taken great care to present the information as clearly as possible, and that includes printed outlines for each effect inside the box. And that's going to make mastering these classics easier than ever. Special thanks go to my good friends, Paul Harris and Eric Mead, for their invaluable help in streamlining some of the handling and presentations. And now, let's look at the secret of our first easy-to-master classic. I think you're going to be surprised by the reaction you get from close-up illusion. It's a wonderful visual piece of magic. The handling that we use is created by Larry Jennings, although Bob Ostin and Bruce Vaughan have handlings which make use of the same gimmick that we're going to use in the close-up illusion now. The gimmick looks best if you make it up with a B-backed playing card. We used Harrah's playing cards here. And the gimmick is made by simply slitting the card. And you can see how effective the B design is on helping to conceal that slit. But the slit goes from the right edge in a straight line to just less than a half an inch from the left edge, and it's about 1 inch long. Now the exact length and width of this particular cut is going to be up to the size of your own hands and the way that you move your thumb, as you'll see in just a moment. And the second B card doesn't have any gimmick to it whatsoever, and you can show those cards pretty freely. At this point, if this were the face of a clock here, this top card kind of goes up towards the 1 o'clock position. You want to leave a rim along this side and along the bottom side, and you have to learn where to put your left thumb so that when it moves the card, the little bit that it has to move it, that it's in the perfect position to conceal the slit. And the same when it moves it back. So what you'll need to do is learn exactly where you'll want to put your thumb, and then every time it'll work exactly the same way, and that'll be one less thing for you to have to think about. Now you're going to hold these two cards after showing and establishing what's going to take place. The third card should be an odd color or an odd back design, and it should be contrasting from the faces, because the point is you want to make this as clear and as visual as possible. So in the first phase, you comment that you're going to place the card onto the bottom, and what you do is as you put that card apparently into the bottom, is you're going to go up and through that slit. But that's going to be underneath that top card. And you can still see how the borders here clearly communicate the order of the cards. Clearly that card is on the bottom. Okay? And after you're showing this, you retake with the left hand in such a grip so that the left thumb is going to go where it needs to go. Now you might want to consider putting the left little finger here, because it can move that card just a little bit, but you're not going to need a lot of movement. Essentially, as you're rolling your hands around, the left thumb simply pivots that card down until it covers that bottom part and the slit. So that's what I was meaning by the size and of your thumb and the way that you're going to ultimately end up moving the thumb. But now I'm going to quickly cause it to go back to its original position by just moving that card back to its original spot. And it seems as if the card has gone back to where it was down on the bottom. Now you offer to repeat the effect. Turn the card face up. Again, you're apparently going to place it onto the bottom, but as you do so, you're going to press upwards on that lower part of the flap so that you can once again insert that card through the slit so that it's now actually seeming, in the center there. And now what you'll do is you're going to cause it to remain in the center. So after you do this, and that's why I don't mind at this point pushing up a little bit with the little finger as this takes place, because I'm not going to cause it to come back down. Now they'll see that it's traveled as visually as anything can travel to another spot. It was on the bottom. By golly, there it is in the middle, and you're going to remove it from that fan in such a way that it seems like they've seen everything there is to see. At this point, you're going to start to pull it forward As soon as it clears that little 1-inch area at the bottom, now you can turn the hand palm up. You want the finger here to be sure and cover the area of that slit so that there's no chance that it can be seen, but clearly it's now coming out of the center. Return that card to the top, because now you're going to recenter it by simply taking this card, indicating this one, and putting it into the position that's going to allow it to be moved that 1 inch. It's going to change the situation to load this card into the slit. It's a very clever sort of indication. Now, even if you'd bet your own money that that card was in the middle, and in doing that, all you're going to do is, underneath that top card, just take it out, put it back into that slit, but from all practical purposes, nothing has happened. So now you have a situation where if you just do this rotary reciprocal action, and what you're doing is you're moving with that thumb so that that card goes back up. At the same time, I kind of pull very little with those fingers at the bottom so that they can see a good chunk of the card coming down from the bottom. Now you pull it out, and as soon as it clears, now you start to pivot it face up, and now they see nothing but the 3 cards and an incredibly visual close-up illusion. The slit is on the bottom. Through the slit. Everything's clear. Position your thumb. Through the slit. If you'd bet your own money, loading it into the slit, I was delighted when John Bannon gave us permission to put Play It Straight Triumph on this series of videos, because I'll be frank with you, I consider it to be the most diabolically constructed effect that I've learned in years. It's really brilliant the way it's all put together, and you get to milk everything until that last second. It starts with the setup of any suit in order. In talking to John about this, he recommended that we use the black suits because they tend to stand out better, particularly in the medium that we're bringing this to you. But this ace through king setup, I place on the bottom of the deck. All you have to do is force one of those 13 cards, whatever's the most comfortable way for you to do that. I like to have those on the bottom, and that way I can just do a little bit of a cut, take them to the center, hold the break, and now when I'm offering those cards to be selected, I can offer a nice wide spread of those selections. Very easy to force one of those 13 cards. And now you square the cards back up, cut that block of cards to the bottom, and what you're going to do, only with the first block that you set down, you're going to have to kind of tilt the faces towards yourself so that they don't see that it's a block of 13 spades. But even if you had people surrounding you on all sides, you could easily cut to the, kind of thumb over to that spot so that they don't see that it is a block in order. And from that point on, you can just start doing the cards facing the spectators, because there's really nothing to hide, as you just divide the deck into the 4 even blocks alternating face down, face up, face down, face up. And now you go into these shuffles, which look absolutely fabulous. You show face up into face down. After the spectator selects his card, essentially what you want to do, to a certain extent, is ignore that spectator. Really kind of create the impression that you're lost for a moment in the process of this shuffling, so that they actually believe later on that perhaps you really did forget from the beginning to have that card returned. So now you're going to do a shuffle over here. I try, now a little touch here, if the left hand's pack drops first in the shuffle and last in the shuffle, for the first two shuffles, first and last, then you get a nice kind of show possible, and I'll show you what I mean by that. But in this particular case, again, I try to give it a nice even shuffle because I'm going to show them that the shuffle has taken place, and I stop it about halfway, and I say, and I can fan it out, and there they get this perfect view of interlaced face-up, face-down cards. That's undeniable. You square it up, and here's what I mean by dropping first and last with the left hand's packet during the shuffle, and you square them up. Now at this point, if I reverse this packet so that it's opposite, the spade should always be opposite of what you're shuffling into next. But because I dropped a spade first, it now is face up as I go to shuffle into this face down pack. And at this point, you don't need to worry about hiding those spades because they have no idea where you're going with this. Again, drop first and last, so that when I turn this over for the last shuffle, okay, again, it seems to be face down going into face up. You can show this very clearly. But because you've dropped first and last on this packet twice in a row, what you're going to have is a spade on the top and the bottom. Ultimately, when you reveal what's taken place, you don't want those to be the top and bottom cards. So this last shuffle actually has to kind of sandwich those cards in. And here's where you'll alter that process of first and last over here, because now you want to lay a little bed right there as you then start to shuffle, and then you want to hold back a little bed of cards. That's 4 or 5 cards on the bottom, 4 or 5 cards on the top, so that when you go to square those up, all the spades are going to be locked into the center of that packet. Now, due to this shuffling procedure, those spades will not go out of order. They can't go out of order because you're simply shuffling straight into this packet as you go from the left to the right. So all those spades are still in order in spite of what looks to be the fairest shuffles that you can pull together under the circumstances. You can't get any fairer than really shuffling. Now it's at this point that you got to sell that moment. You got to really, and you know what? You don't want to blame it on the spectator. You don't want to use magic like a sharp stick and go around poking people with it. You can't say, "Oh, you didn't put the card back." That implies it's their fault. It's not their fault. I mean, they're just trying to do whatever you tell them to do. So the appropriate thing, in my opinion, is say, "Oh, I didn't have you put the card back in the deck. See, now it looks like you're out on such a long limb. Hey, how about this?" And this is just a nice little bit with a deck of cards that Jerry Andrus featured in his lecture years ago. And the idea of winding the deck up. You hold that deck in a fairly tight grip, and you're going to riffle with your left thumb, but at the same time, you're doing this twisting action here. So now you'll notice that sounds louder than this, and where that sound comes from is you're kind of boxing in that corner in between that curled left index finger and those fingers there, and that tight block of cards sounds a lot louder. Like this. I'll tell you what your card is through the process of elimination, and now I've got the ace, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, jack, queen, king. Ace, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, jack, queen, king. That must be the 8 of spades, and when the full realization of what's taken place hits them, it is an absolute classic, and that's John Bannon's Play It Straight Triumph. The suit in order on the bottom. Force one of those cards. Spades in order. Any group, any group, any group. The first card to fall and the last card to fall. Turn over. First card to fall, last card to fall. turn over. Drop a block of cards. Save a block of cards. In close-up illusion, the actual effect happens in 1 inch of space. So use very small wrist movements to focus attention on that one magic spot. With Play It Straight Triumph, really work to make the mistake believable. If the spectator truly believes you've forgotten to have them put the card back into the deck, you'll seem to be stuck with an unfixable mess of cards. So if you end up solving a problem of this magnitude, literally involving the entire deck, the effect takes on heroic proportions. Wow, thank you. So did you ever hear anybody say, it went up his sleeve, the trick is up the magician's sleeve? You ever heard that sort of thing? Yeah. You know, the professor told me once that's the greatest lie ever told by a magician, was that it went up his sleeve, because everybody's looking up the magician's sleeve, and while you all are looking there, we're just doing it all someplace else. I'll show you what I mean by that. Just see if you can stop me at an ace. How about? Just say stop anywhere you want.
Stop.
Right there? Mm-hmm. Let's see. Ooh, close. Close. That's what the K stands for. It is close. Oh, okay. Let's see over here. Oh, just missed. Which is what the J stands for. Just missed. But now, let's say I wanted an ace. Okay. See, I could actually go to my sleeves, but I wouldn't use the inside like everybody thinks. What you do is you use the outside of the sleeve and you get them in a magical sort of way. That's the first one. The great thing is it's ambidextrous. See, if I do it over here, I get one over there as well. Works every single time. So that's 2 of the aces that we need. That's the ace of diamonds. That's the ace of hearts. Let's see if we can't go back for clubs and spades. This time I'll do it a little different, just down here. A touch. And there you go. Let's see if I do it again, but just a rub. And there you go. And we get all 4 aces. Maybe you'd like to see it in your very own hands. Hold out your one hand flat there for me. Here's what I'll do. I'll place the ace of clubs into it, and I'll just give it a little bit of shake, and it comes all the way to the back, even while it's in your own hands. That's pretty neat, isn't it?
Unbelievable.
Works every time. Well, let's see here. Let's see if we can't end up doing something exactly the opposite of what you've just seen. I'll show you what I mean by that. If I place 3 cards on top of each one of these aces, it doesn't matter which cards we use, but I want to minimize that entire movement so there'll be no confusion. We'll eliminate the rest of the deck, and we'll try and accomplish that same sort of thing. 3 cards on top of each one of the aces. There we go. Now you saw that I used a certain counterclockwise action. Now if I use the opposite action, see, if I actually go clockwise, the aces now vanish. You see, we started with the aces over here, but now, just like this, the first ace has vanished. Now, you may not have known what to expect that time, but now you'll know what to look for. And if you are paying attention, you'll notice something particularly interesting. See, the aces are not actually disappearing. See, what they're doing is they're changing. See, we started with 3 cards. We still got 3 cards, but the aces are changing. And we've still got those 3 cards that we started with, but the ace is gone. Now, if you have a good memory for cards, you can even remember the cards that we're starting with. In this case, the 9, the 7, and the 8. Now, if I add the ace to it, and I give it that little reverse motion just like that, now we've still got the 8, we've still got the 7, we've still got the 9, but that ace, why, it's changed into a different card. One more to go. You know exactly what to look for. All I do is give it that little clockwise action, and those aces completely disappear leaving nothing over here. So we started with 3 cards over here. We've still got 3 cards and a different card. Surely you're thinking to yourself, they must have gone someplace, perhaps to the rest of the deck. I'm going to give you a choice. 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6?
6.
6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cuts. Now let's see if we can spell. ACEOFSPADES, and just like that, that's the first one. Good job. Now the Ace of Clubs spells with 10 letters. I know that because I spelled it just before I came out. And if I cut just like that, that should be ACEOFCLUBS. Hey, I got lucky. Now there's a couple more aces left. Let's see, let's go for one of the longer spelling ones. That would be the ACEOFDIAMONDS. And there we go. There's the Ace of Diamonds. Now, at this point, you may be saying to yourself, well, Michael, what if I can't spell? And that's a good question. In this case, let's count. Down 9, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and that's all. 4 aces. But as long as we've got the aces out, I'll show you something that actually puzzles me. I'm going to take, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 here, and show you exactly what I mean. In spite of the fact that clearly we only have 4 cards, and the aces, have been used already, what I don't understand is if I take the Ace of Spades, and I place it onto the bottom, and I give it a little bit of a like this, the Ace of Spades comes back to the top. I'll do it again. You see, if I take the ace and I place it onto the bottom, give it a little snap, it comes back to the top. Now, what I don't understand about it is the fact that I put the ace anywhere into the pack and I give it that little magical movement. It comes back to the top. I could put it onto the table and still it comes back to the top. Now, what I really don't understand about this is that this is called the 4 10 of hearts trick. That's what I don't understand about it. And I'm thinking, why should it be called the 4 10 of hearts trick? Because I put the ace down into here, and it comes back to the top. Sometimes I put it down to the bottom. I give it a little magic move, and it comes back to the top. Sometimes I put it onto the table, and it still comes back to the top. So why should it be called the 4 10 of hearts trick? Now, the reason that it's called the 4 10 of hearts trick is because I use 1 10 of hearts, I use 2 10 of hearts, I use 3 10 of hearts, and I use 4 10 of hearts. That's one reason why I would call it the 10 of hearts trick, but that's not why I'm confused. Why I'm confused is because this trick is actually done with a king, and it's done with a second king, it's done with the third king and a fourth king. That's why I don't understand why it's called the 4 10 of hearts trick. In his book, Variations, Earl Nelson had a routine called Sleeve Aces, which was based on Al Leech's discovery of aces. Now, in working directly with Earl Nelson's routine, we made some modifications, altered some things, and to what it really comes across is pretty much a different flow of things than that which Earl did. But we certainly recommend that you look at Earl's routine because it's wonderful for what it is. And we've just modified it so that we eliminated some slip cuts and some changes and modified it down to 2 phases. Here's exactly what you do. You've got the black aces face to face on top of the deck. Now you're going to have 1 ace in the center. You're going to have a break with that one, so we're just going to kind of save where that spot is for the moment. And the 4th ace is second from the bottom. Okay? Now, in order to get the best contrast on some of these transformations, a face card turning into that ace looks the best. So this ace that's going into the center is going to go in right below a king, so that we can get a nice change from that king into an ace. And that ace which is going on to the bottom is going right above another face card. so that we can get that face card turning into an ace. And in this particular case, just so that we can have a pattern line for showing each one of those, we put a king there so that we can say, ooh, close. That's what the K stands for. Just missed. That's what the J stands for, and that's going to be on the bottom. So in order to begin, you have that break above the ace in the center of the deck and below that king. So what you'll do to start is say, see if you can stop me at an ace. As you riffle down, you insert your finger. Is this it? Yes. And you go ahead and pick up at the break. So as the left thumb and the right index finger really imply this is where that you're going to stop, because that's where they said stop. When it comes right down to it, it's the right thumb that picks up at the back at the break. Let's see what you got. Ooh, close. That's what the K stands for. It's close. And at the instant that you turn that palm up to show that card, that's where focus is going to be. It's going to be looking at that card, and at that moment, you just get a break below the ace in the left hand. Ooh, close. That's what the K stands for. Now as the hands pivot, the right hand's going to pick up that ace from the left hand as you continue on, levering that packet face up using the right hand's block. But you've stolen that ace. They just don't know it yet. Ooh, just missed. That's what the J stands for. Now you're going to produce the first ace, giving the hands a nice clean look. You're going to go back. Now one would think that this is a good opportunity to get a break below that jack, because you're going to need to do that in a moment. The only problem is, if I do this, that spot is right in their face. So again, you want to look kind of pristine at that point. Do the move, and only when you're revealing the ace, the instant you show what that ace is, that's the time to get a break below the jack. Now you'll turn your right hand palm down, pinching it between the left index finger and the left thumb. Flipping it face up, you're going to pick up that jack. It's kind of a choreographed move taking place at this point, because as you flip that over and re-grip with the right hand, you've stolen that jack, while at the same time you've got to turn the left hand palm down so that they don't realize a card's been taken off, setting you up to expose an ace. So now you've got two aces. You've got two aces. Now you're going to need to get a break above two cards over here so that you can split in between those aces. The best time to get that break is probably as you're thumbing those two red aces to the table. So it gives you a moment to kind of hold on, thumb two off as the left thumb takes one ace, two aces. You got that break between the two facing aces, so the right hand flips that packet face down, shows its packet, so you're going to get a nice production with those two backs transforming to two faces of aces. So what you do is you pivot down, you find a nice pivot point as you come away. I like to pivot away at those two corners, give it a little rub, and then show the next two aces. Now the situation was, because you dropped off two cards over here, you're going to have an ace and that extra card. Because again, here the situation of stealing these two to produce these. Now there's a couple of ways to deal with that situation. You can thumb this off, you can find some way to unload this, but you might as well get a little juice out of that extra card being there. So invite the spectator to experience it inside of their own hands. You do a double lift, you place the indifferent card onto his palm, you dribble the cards onto his palm, give it a little shake, show that the last ace has come back while it's still inside the spectator's hand, leaving them to examine everything, and that concludes sleeve aces. Black aces, face to face on top, block of cards, a king, an ace, a jack and an ace on the bottom, and you'll hold a break between the king and the ace. As you get a break, pick it up as you flip it over. produce the first ace. As you show, get a break here. Pick up the jack as the left produces its ace. Break over 2. So remove the aces. Now you'll drop off as you produce the final aces. Your left set up for a double. Place it onto the spectator's hand to conclude. Stanley Collins devised a method of causing aces to disappear from a packet of cards through the use of this glide and the setting down of a double. Now, once you cause those aces to disappear, there's a variety of things that you can do to reproduce those aces. Some people gather those packets up, deal a round of poker, and have those aces appear in a certain poker hand. Martin Lewis has constructed a way of spelling to those aces. Alex Elmsley, again through the double set down, the Collins technique, spells to his aces, but the ones that we're going to show you now was created by Martin Lewis. And it starts with the aces on the table in clubs, hearts, spades, diamonds order. And the only thing that you need to consider for the final spelling, or for the final counting, is to have a 9 second from the top of the deck, because that's going to crop up at just the perfect time. After setting these aces onto the table, you push over and get a break beneath 2. It's a very simple thing as you're setting these down to push 2 cards over so that now you can take 1, 2, 3, but what you're really counting is 4 because that first one is a double. Now, it doesn't have to be a perfect double because this is a very casual thing and you're not really calling attention to it. You're going to do it 4 times, but it's going to be a very casual counting off, turning face up and placing onto the cards. Push 2 as 1, that's 1, 2, 3. Turn those cards face up and place them onto the diamonds. As you're setting those down, push over another 2 so that you can come back and take 1, which is a double, 2, 3, turn those face up, place those down, getting a push over on 2, so that you can come up and take 1, 2, 3, placing those down as you do, get another push over so that you can crisply come up and take 1, 2, 3, set the deck down, turn them face up, and place them down. Now, the reason that you do that extra double deal there, where you actually are taking a 2 as opposed to 1 on that first count, is because the aces aren't going to seem to disappear, they're going to seem to change into another card. They think you're starting with 3 on each ace, you're actually starting with 4. You take the ace of clubs, you push over that cover packet and flip it face up. You flip the ace down on top of the packet, you do the magic, however you choose to cause that ace to magically disappear. Now you're going to, whatever you do at that moment to cause the magic to happen, allow it to reposition the cards back in the hand so that it's in glide position, which in this case, in my case, is the left hand. Palm down, these fingers able to reach over to the face so that I can pull a card back when the time comes. So what you do now is you pull out 1 card, place it face up. Pull out a 2nd card, place it face up. And as this is going face up to the table, the left hand pulls back the bottom card so that you can now take a double. And the advantage that you have here, doubles are always a little dicey when it comes to either pulling them or turning them or setting them down. But the advantage that you have here is that the fingers and the thumb form a track that keep that double perfectly lined up until you set its edge onto the table, and then you just let it fall face up. Now, it is a double. It may give you a fraction of a split there, but the important thing is they're not looking there. Those are in different cards. Here's the ace. That's where the interest is, and if you draw energy and tension up to here, then the change happens up here. And they have no reason at that point to be looking down there. So you drop that onto the packet, and that's your discards, which you move to one side. Now you're going to repeat that 3 more times. But each one has a little touch to it that makes it interesting. Flip those over, flip the ace over, do the magic, reposition in that glide position, because you're going to do exactly the same thing. You count single, single, glide over here, double. And then it changes. Now at this point, and you're going to do an Scarne spread, because you're going to reposition some cards for that later counting. So the left hand pulls the bottom, the left thumb pulls the top, and now the left fingers take the next bottom. Here is the double, which conceals that ace. So it's bottom, top, bottom, and you take that double and count it onto the discard pile before counting 1, 2, 3. Little repositioning there for the later spell. Now you get a nice touch here as you get to show these indifferent cards before you later show that they remain. So you show a jack. Now you're going to glide with the next card. So you say, if you like to pay attention, there's a jack, there's a 7, there's a 10. Now you're going to add the ace to it, do the magic, and you've still got, now it'll be in reverse order, that 10, that 7. Now you glide, set down that jack, and then the next ace disappears. And you place that onto the discard pile. Now you're going to do the final ace, push over those 3. It's actually 4. And the ace. You do the magic. And now you're going to do that same glide vanish where it allows you to set down a double in a very clean way. That's 1. That's 2. Glide. Do the double. 3. The 4th ace disappears. Now you're going to slightly reposition that 9 so that you can have it in the right spot later on. And you're going to do an Scarne spread. As you set down the double, you count these singly onto it, and that 9, which you set up from the very beginning, scoops it all up, drops it onto the discard pile. Now, as you take the discard pile, you only need to do one thing in order to put you into the right situation at this particular point. So what you're going to do is you turn these down, you get a break below 2 cards, and you bring the deck back up to it and you add it onto it, because you're going to double cut those 2 out of the situation. But from here, I typically will ask a spectator, give me a number 3, 4, 5, 6, it doesn't matter, so that I can then do that number of cuts before bringing that pile back to the top of the deck. From this point on, all you have to do is spell the cards, and you'll come to all the appropriate cards. The first card is the Ace of Spades. That's A-C-E-O-F-S-P-A-D-E-S, Ace of Spades. In the way that you're doing this, you've now repositioned the Ace of Clubs for its next counting. So as you set this to one side, this is the exact number of cards that it's going to take to spell the Ace of Clubs. And it was Alan O'Carroll who gave Martin Lewis the tip here to not go ahead and put those full flush back onto the deck and then just spell, but to hold a break so that you can then add a little bit of an effect to it. He said, let me see, the Ace of Clubs, that spells with 10 letters. So let me see, I'll cut 10 cards, and let's see if that spells the Ace of Clubs. And then you'll spell A-C-E-O-F-C-L-U-B-S, and it looks like you get kind of a double effect out of that. So that's Spades, Clubs. The next to go is going to be the Ace of Hearts, I believe. No, let's go for the Ace of, I think it's the Ace of Diamonds. A-C-E-O-F-D-I-A-M-O-N-D-S, that's the Ace of Diamonds. So it goes Spades, Clubs, Diamonds. The next to go, the Ace of Hearts. The Ace of Hearts is 9 cards away from the top of the deck. That's the 9 that's on top. If at this point you want to give it a quick false cut series, just cut the top to the bottom, then cut it back up, a false shuffle, whatever you want to do in order to get to this situation of now let's count. So let's count 9 cards away. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 cards. It just happens to be that 4th and final ace, the ace of hearts. And that's spelling Collins aces. I'll never forget when I saw Darwin Ortiz perform Jumping Gemini for the first time. It seemed amazing that you could get so much magic out of such a small number of cards. It's really stuck in my mind all these years. Now, when Darwin would do it, he would simply bring out a packet, or he would remove a packet, the 2 of spades, the 10 of hearts, and a couple of kings. We decided to go into this switching into that effect from a 4-ace routine. So instead of starting by showing a 2 doing all this stuff, which Darwin does, we start with an ace, and I'll show you how we go into that. We have the 10 of hearts, any 2 of the kings, as long as it could just as easily be the king of hearts or the king of clubs, but they need to be 2 different colors. Those are on top of the deck when you conclude your aces effect. And the ace needs to be on the top of that packet, or the last from the face. And as you show those, you go back and you're going to pick up those 3 cards from the top of the deck, the 2 kings and the 10, underneath those 4 aces, so that you can now switch those in for the 3 aces. You'll pull over the ace of hearts, flip it face up, next ace, flip it face up, next ace, flip it face up, and you're holding that whole packet over here with the right hand. And as this one goes, you just drop everything on top and then turn over the next ace. And that has switched out those aces for the 2 kings and the 10. Now you're going to count singly, because they really need to know that you're only using 4 cards, reversing the order of those cards to the table. So now what you've got on the table are the 2 kings, the 10, and the ace. Square those cards up. You're going to do an Elmsley count, taking 1, push over 2, load back the 1 as you take the 2, and now you're going to hold a break on the 3rd one, and as you count 4, that just sets you up to do a double lift, showing the ace of spades. Kind of try and box that ace of spades in so that it doesn't go all the way flush to make it that much easier to do the next turnover. And you take the ace and you place it on to the bottom. That's actually an indifferent, one of the other cards. You make the magic happen and show that the ace is back on top. Now here's a real nice way of apparently losing that ace of spades while causing it to come back to the top of the deck. You simply do an Elmsley count. But you do it with a timing that implies that what you're doing is taking the ace and putting 3 cards on top of it. And what happens is, with that ace face down, you take the ace, you push over 2, and it looks like you're just thumbing cards on top of it, but you've taken back that ace, and now the ace of spades seems to come back to the top. It's a very nice moment. Now you'll spread those cards, place the ace visibly 3rd from the top, square them up, do a block push over, lifting the 3, showing the aces come back to the top. Another block push over, place that card onto the table, do a block of 2, it's come back to the top. You could place it onto the bottom. Now you'll turn over a single, it comes back to the top. Now you turn it over, and you're apparently going to put this ace once more back onto the bottom. But a nice little moment here, you turn that ace over, now you take 2 cards. You're taking a double to the bottom, so that when you do another double, the aces come back to the top. Now, continuing, you say, look, I even put the card onto the table, still it comes back to the top. So now what your situation is, you're going to want this 10 to end up 3rd down. So what I do here is I just kind of scoop these up and I put that ace onto the bottom. And that really basically deposits that 10 3rd from the top. Now all they've seen really originally were the aces now, but all they've seen is the ace of spades over and over and over again. It's about this point they're trying to think, they're probably all the ace of spades. And that's when you ring in the tens. Now you're going to do a block pushover, taking 3 as 1, flip it face up. There's the first 10. Another block push off, take that off. Now you'll turn over 2 for a second 10. Push it back face down, take another 10 off. You know what seems to be a second 10? Flip over the third card. As this 10 goes face down, what you're going to do now is come down, but you're going to pull the bottom card instead of the third card and lever up another 10. So it seems like they've just seen all 4 of these cards to be 10s. Take that face down, and now you're going to do a quick frustration count showing a 10, a 10, a 10, a 10. And now you're set up for the big payoff at the end, as you'll do that Gemini count to show the 4 kings, what seems to be 4 kings. Now you're going to show the same kings twice. So you don't want to call attention to the actual suits. You just simply want to say, there's a king, there's a king, there's a king, there's a king. So the first double comes from the center. The best way to do that, I think, is to take the thumb, push up 1 card. Now you've got 3 here. The index finger kind of buckles so that you can now pull out 2 from the center, and you flip it face up. Now you can pull, and flip that double over, setting down a king. Now you're going to do a double from the bottom, just kind of move that top card out of the way, and pull that card up from the bottom, turn it down. Now you want to bring the bottom card again, show another king, and you would have just gotten more mileage out of a small number of cards than anyone would have dreamed possible. That's Jumping Gemini by Darwin Ortiz out of Darwin Ortiz at the Card Table. The 10 of hearts, followed by a red and black king. Hold a break below 3. Ace of spades on the top. Pick up the 3. Drop off all. Reverse count. Elmsley count. Hold a break after 3. Double lift. Showing the ace. Double lift. Show back on top. Begin an Elmsley count. The ace. Push over 2. Leave the ace as you seem to count 3 onto it. Third from the top. Block turnover. Block turnover. Single. Now a double. Now a double. Take a double to the bottom. Now another double. To the table. Show again. This 10 of hearts needs to be on the bottom. Leave the 10 of hearts. The ace of spades goes to the bottom. Triple lift. Double lift. Single. Pull the bottom. Back to the bottom. Frustration count. Double lift from the center. Double lift from the bottom. Single from the bottom. In order for sleeve aces to seem like real magic, it must appear as if no pickups and drop-offs are taking place, even though that's exactly what happens. Pay particular attention to the flow and timing, because every moment adds a specific value to the overall effect. Do it smoothly and strive for a rhythmic, magical flow, accented only by the display of the aces. With jumping Gemini, well, that's another one where your fingers simply have to memorize everything they need to do. Any hesitation or fumbling will diminish the magical effect. Thank you. Thank you very much. You know, I've seen some impossible things in my life, and one of those that comes to mind when we're in this kind of setting, I had a session one night with a magician by the name of Jennings, and he showed me something that was really impossible, and I thought you all might like to see it. It's, you know, clearly a shuffle deck. We've been handling it all this time, no way to know what any of the cards are. I'll tell you what I'm going to have you do. I'm going to have you think of any number. Now, it can literally be any number, but it gets unwieldy if it's too big a number. So let's just say between 1 and 10, just to keep it convenient. Now, when I turn around, I'm going to have you take off that number. Let's say hypothetically you think of 3, or that you think of 7. You know, I want you to, in such a way that I can't hear what that number is, because I can't know what that number is. It's going to be a secret for you. And you take that number off the deck. Then I want you to take that same number off the deck twice more. Okay, if it was all 7. And from that point on, we're going to be shuffling cards and putting cards in all kinds of different places and that sort of thing. But does that sound pretty fair to you?
Easy enough.
There you go. I think of that number between 1 and 10. I'm going to turn my back, just thumb over that number and drop it onto the table. Did you get those thumbed off and dropped onto the table?
Yes.
Now, you got to confess, it'd be impossible for me to know what that number could be. Now, I want you to do that 2 more times, so that you have 3 piles onto the table of that small number of cards. Okay? Got it? Now, with the deck, I want you to place the deck onto any one of those 3 cards, 3 piles. There you go. Now, it'd be impossible for me to know which pile you put that on, wouldn't it?
I would assume.
Yeah, it would be. Now, of the other 2, take any one of those 2 that you'd like. Pick it up. And I want you to mix those cards completely so that nobody could possibly know what cards would be where. And I want you to look at that top card. And in fact, show that top card to everybody. And put it back on top. And then put that packet on top of the deck. Now I want you to take the one remaining packet, mix those up so that nobody could know any possible order for any of those cards, and place it on top of the deck. Done?
Done.
That'd be pretty impossible for me to know how many cards you started with, which packets you wanted to do what with, what card that you would end up looking at. Be all pretty impossible, wouldn't you agree?
I would think so.
Now, it could have been, you could have counted 6 in that first pile if you'd have wanted to. You could have thought of 4. It didn't matter. But once you thought of whatever number it was, you ended up making 2 other piles. Okay? Then it was just drop the deck on any pile. I'm just going to kind of review what's been done. Then you took any of the other 2 piles and you mixed them up and you thought of a card. Then you mixed these up and you tossed them up. It'd be pretty impossible for me to have any clue what that card might have been. Right, so we're dealing with a pretty impossible situation. Okay? In fact, I tell you what, I'm going to give you the deck, and I'd like you to spell the word impossible. Counting from the top of the deck, one card at a time.
2 M's in impossible?
I think there's 1. We'll count along with you. Just IMPOSSIBLE. Take a look. Is that your card? Now that's impossible. Now that's impossible. That's impossible. You know, that really is impossible. But you know, there may actually be a way that we could go one step further than that. There's no way that I could know that spelling the word impossible could possibly have put that card where you'd have it. I tell you what, shuffle it one more time. Let's go one step further.
Just
Any sort of shuffle, except for the Virginia City shuffle. There you go. Now think of any number between. Oh, you cut him. Oh, this could be interesting.
Of course I am.
I know, yeah. You're a gambler, I see. Yeah, you always cut the cards. That's the motto. Okay, how about think of another number, this time between 5 and 15. 5 and 15, and I'm going to have you count down. And at the end of that count, your card's going to be looking you right in the face. That'd be a pretty good trick. And you got one more chance to cut or shuffle it. I mean, I'll give you that one last.
No.
Okay, right as we are.
I don't have a number.
Give it a shot. Count down.
Roll them over? Or
Yeah, you count them face down, and then turn the last one face up. What's the number, 11. By the way? 11? Okay, let's see.
1.
There'll be no doubt in your mind this time.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Is that it? Is that it? Is it looking you in it's looking you right in the face? Is that your card? Right at 11. That's it. Oh, thank you. Wow, thank you very much. Well, you know, it's at about this point in the performance that I start to feel an affinity for different people in the audience, and maybe we can kind of have an experiment to just see how in sync we really are. Does that sound like a good thing?
Sounds great.
I knew it would be. See how synced we are? You can give those cards a shuffle. I want to give these cards a shuffle. What we're going to do, now see, if we were to do something based on just one deck of cards, the odds would be really revolving around 1 in 52.
Right.
By adding a second deck like this, we change the odds more to 52 times 52. Right. Now, when it gets to be this complex, you know, frankly, I think it's okay to just shoot for 1 out of 3 in kind of a prediction kind of thing. So why don't you give the cards a quick mixing there, and I'm going to give the cards a quick mixing up here. And any time you arrive at a card that you're happy with, let's trade cards. There you go. And go ahead and mix that into your deck. At the same time, there it comes and there it goes, just like this. And I'll trade you one more card. Very good. Just go ahead and lose that into the deck in much the same way, and I'll trade you one more card for one more card. Okay, as I said, when you're dealing with 52 times 52, I couldn't even begin to tell you what that number is, but it's pretty far up there.
Right.
So let's see if we ended up lucky enough to get 1 out of those 3 predictions right. Okay? You might find yours even quicker than I find mine. There's 2. Oops, I beat you. There you go. Let's see, in this particular case, I got an ace, a 7, and a queen. I certainly hope that at least one of these will be a match there. Well, hey, that's pretty lucky. Let's see. Oh. Well, Lord have mercy. We hit all 3. We must be in sync. We're there, right? We are in sync. Impossible by Larry Jennings. You know, everybody can use a really great card location that's a fooler, and this is one of the best. It's good to kind of show them what needs to be done, and so Larry will tend to walk through some of these procedures with people before he ends up having them follow through. But you really want to start from a well-shuffled deck so that they realize that there's no prearrangements, there's no key cards, and at the key moment when you're passing the deck to them, in order for them to follow the procedures as you give them, what you're going to do is you're going to buckle that upper right corner. That way, when you give the cards to the spectator, it'll be pointing away from them, and it'll be in your line of vision. And all the spectator has to do is literally what you've just described through the procedures. They think of any number between 1 and 10. It's a good idea psychologically to make them believe that it could be any number whatsoever, 1 to 52. But just for the sake of convenience, just keep it 1 to 10. And what they do, let's say they think of the number 5. They're to push off 5 cards and place those cards onto the table. Then they take 5 more cards, and then 5 more cards. Now they're to take the deck and place it onto any one of those cards. When they place it onto any one of those cards, they take the next card, select any one of the other packets, give it a shuffle, look at the top card. Now, one of the things that I had considered as I was playing with this, let's say wouldn't it be nice to tell them to shuffle the cards face up and just think of one of those cards? But you see, if they did that, then they would have to reposition it on top. It's really great the way Larry had it originally. Just shuffle all the cards, make sure that it doesn't matter what card's on top, then look at that top card. That way it's just the card where it needs to be. In this case, the Jack of Spades. Look at that card, now drop that packet on top of the deck. Now shuffle these up and drop it on top of the deck. And now you turn around and you take the deck in your own hands. At this point, you might want to give that deck a revolve so that that crimp is now facing you. And now you illustrate what you had them do. And you count down 6 cards, as you're saying. Now, you could have thought of any number. You could have thought of 6. And if you had thought of 6, you'd have taken 6 cards off. If you'd have thought of 4, now you reverse count 1, 2, 3, 4. Whatever number it was that you thought, you made that number. Now, that reverse counting of those 10 cards is very important. Now, from that point on, it doesn't matter what card you take and drop there. Now you want to act like, look, you could take it anywhere from here, and I told you to drop it onto any one of the piles, and you'll drop it onto that pile that you reverse counted. And the rest of it is just kind of reinforcing what was taking place and emphasizing the impossibility of any sort of prearrangement or stacking, particularly if you've taken a fairly large box of cards here. It really starts to seem like nobody could be following the location of any of those cards. But now all you have to do is cut your crimp back to the bottom and complete the cut. And now, no matter which number they started out with, whether it was 3, 5, 7, 9, as long as it was between 1 and 10, if they now spell the word impossible, the card they looked at, the card you emphasize as just being thought of, will be the last card. Let's see, that's I-M-P-O-S-S-I-B-L-E. Now, if that's the Jack of Spades, that would be impossible. By golly, it is. By Larry Jennings. The card on forehead is a classic effect for anyone that works in restaurants or bars, frankly, just about anybody that likes to have a lot of fun as they perform card magic, interacting with people. It's a real interaction kind of effect. Essentially, what you need is an element of misdirection that really firmly convinces them that their card is somewhere else, giving you the time that you need to put the card onto your forehead. Some of the sophisticated professionals might palm that card out or have other techniques which are a little bit more technically demanding, but a technique which I've found to be perfectly convincing is to simply get a break above that bottom card. You're going to kick over and the selection goes on top. It's that standard add-on. As you push forward, the right thumb is going to register at the back, which means that that card that you're adding on is now flush with the deck. So what you do is you push that forward. It's best to only push it forward an inch and a half or two so that later on you can still push it back in with the left index finger. But the instant that the card is flush with the deck that you're adding on, the left hand turns palm down to indicate the selection. Now, the left index finger pushes it back flush as the left hand turns palm up and thumbs that card off. So you get a nice visual burn on that, really implying that that's the original card all along, that it never left their sight. And now you just dribble these cards down and add that card to the center of it and say, do me a favor, mix the cards that no one would know where in that packet your selection was. That presupposes that, of course, that is their selection that went into it. And at this point, you want them to name a number between 5 and 15. I choose to have it between 5 and 15. because that way you know they're going to be dealing enough cards down to give you plenty of misdirection. To a certain extent, the longer that you can stretch out the revelation that the cards have been on your forehead, the funnier it can be. So to a certain extent, the more they're counting down, the better it is. And as they're counting, and as all attention is there, and as you've confirmed that when you get to your number, you're going to see your card staring you right in the face, all you do is moisten the back of the card, stick it to your forehead. I have to confess that in spite of being blessed with a great deal of forehead to work with, I've always had a hard time getting these cards to stick to my forehead. Moistening it will keep it up there for a little while. At other times, I might actually just go ahead and drop that card behind one of my glasses and eliminate the need to worry about how long it's going to stay. And, saying something like, keep your eye on it, because I'm going to keep my eye on it. But in any case, as they're counting down, moisten the back, just thumb it off the top, go ahead and press it on firmly, and extend it as long as you can. Now with this packet, see again, as you can see, it doesn't stay too well on my forehead, but with these packets, if they haven't looked up, what you might do is try to use these packets to misdirect their attention back onto the table as long as possible to delay the revelation of the card on the forehead. And just an idea, a little bit of business you might find interesting as I was thinking about this effect. Might be fun if you had a thumbtack that you could conveniently steal during that moment. What if you had a thumbtack with a little piece of wax on the end of it? As you pull this off, you simply bring that card down and load it onto that thumbtack or a nail of some sort, anything that could allow you to spin that card and have it stick to a pointed object after you pulled it off. You put it there, and then you can show that on there for some kind of a payoff. But in any case, that's the classic card on forehead. Triple Coincidence by John Scarne. With a little thinking, you can actually use this great effect, which uses two decks, to ring in a brand new deck which is stacked in an order that you can put to use later on. And you can plan well in advance in order to introduce this effect into a presentation. For example, here as I've been explaining these last few effects, I have removed 3 cards from this deck and had it in the red deck all along. And the red deck has been set up for the performance of Triple Coincidence. It's already spread those 3 cards through the deck that you're going to need and has the mates on top. As I said, in the meantime, this could be a full deck stack, as you'll soon see. But here's how you perform Triple Coincidence. You're going to spread these cards out. What you'll do is you'll take 3 blue cards from the blue deck and put them into 3 different parts of the red deck. Then you'll take the mates of those 3 blue cards and put them on top of your red deck. So I know that these are the mates to these cards that are sprinkled through the blue cards from over here, sprinkled through the red deck. Those are on top here. I introduce this, set the cards down, and describe what's going to take place. You're going to shuffle your cards. I'm going to shuffle my cards. Now, you can shuffle your cards if it's not a stacked deck that you're going to use later on. You only want to make sure that they don't see the blue cards and that you don't interrupt those 3 cards that's on top of the deck. But if you want to give it a tight shuffle, you can very clearly shuffle your cards. Now you're going to trade cards with the person with the opposite deck. You say, I'll give you a card. You give me a card. As you take their card, just double cut that card to the bottom. Making sure as you do, particularly on the first one, that you don't cut in the process to one of those other blue cards. Now that one card is in there, if for some reason you should happen to cut to one of those cards, it won't make a big difference because there is a blue card in that deck. After another series of cuts, you say, let's trade another card. They give you another card. They cut theirs into their deck and mix the cards as you just take their card to the bottom. Give them the top card. Now, if you'd been doing false cuts before you introduced the effect, all you're doing now is cutting cards from the top down to the bottom. So now your situation is 3 cards whose identity you don't know and don't need to know from the blue deck have been cut to the bottom of your pack. You have 3 blue cards spread through your pack. In the meantime, the spectator has added your 3 cards that you took from the top of your deck. Now, it just so happens that those 3 cards are the mates over here. So now you say, let's go through and see what we've done. As you do, you want to make sure that you don't spread into those bottom blue cards, but simply go through and take out the blue cards as you come to them through your blue deck, or through your red deck from their blue deck. Now, they'll remove the red cards from their deck. Now, you don't need to worry about cleaning up these cards just yet. Show you a couple of ways in a moment if you're worried about that. But in any case, you'll go ahead and show. Now, with 52 times 52 odds, even just 1 out of 3 would be a wonderful feat. Let's see how well we did, and then you'll have the spectator realize that, by golly, it was 3 for 3, unprecedented, and that really is a wonderful triple coincidence that you got going for you there. As these cards are returned, now what you've got are those 3 blue cards on the bottom there. If you wanted, you can go ahead and just stack those as you move those to one side. That, to my mind, always seemed a tad cumbersome. So one thing that you may want to do is kind of side jog those at a little bit of an angle and kind of set those so that they're not exactly one on top of the other, and just move those to one side and then later take that block cleanly. Or you could just put those cards away, leaving those stranger cards from the opposite deck on the bottom and not call attention to it at all, and conclude an amazing feat of mind-reading coincidence from John Scarne. Card on the forehead is essentially a sucker effect, so soften the blow to the spectator as much as possible. After all, they've unwittingly become the object of entertainment. At the very least, you should reward them with a kind, gentle manner, letting everyone know that it's all in good fun. With triple coincidence, this is all about clearly communicating the fairness of what you're doing, as well as the impossibility of what you're about to attempt. If you succeed on those 2 points, you've got a miracle. Wow, thank you. Great. Let's do something with the cards beyond picking and finding and stuff like that. Let's do a little something with the mind. Would you mind giving me a hand with this? It doesn't matter which one you use. Just pull one of those toward yourself, and I'm not going to look at it, show it to everybody. I'll keep it my back turned the whole time. And you show it to everybody what the card is?
I believe so.
And mix it all up inside of with the other cards. Yeah, in fact, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to have you just drop them inside of there. There you go. Now, you're just thinking of one card. Is that correct?
I believe so.
And I have here a wallet. Now, inside of my wallet, I have a prediction that I wrote down just the other day. Now, you can never tell. Predictions are funny things. You can never tell when the right time is to see if you've had a hit. But you're thinking of just one of these playing cards. I have just one business card inside of my wallet. Turn that business card over and read it out loud.
I know you would think of the 10 of clubs.
Is that it? You're thinking of the 10 of clubs? I knew you'd think of the 10 of clubs. I knew you'd think of the 10 of clubs, and it could have been any one of those cards.
He's right.
How? Exactly. As long as you don't ask why. That's the tough question. But why? With magic, there's some things that you can try with a regular deck of cards at home. It doesn't take anything fancy. It doesn't take a lot of skill. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We'll just use 8 cards. Now, it doesn't matter what the cards are. All that it matters is that they be random cards that have alternating colors. So here, let me go ahead and alternate some of the colors here, and that should do it. The only rule, no what they call face cards. No jacks, no queens, no kings, only spot cards. And of those spot cards, it doesn't matter which they are. You don't have to remember their values. All they have to be is alternating in color. Red, black, red, black, red, black, red, black. That's all that matters. Here's what you do. You take half of them, red, black, leave them on the table. You leave half of the red, black inside of your hand. Simple so far, but if you reverse them, red, black, something magical happens. You see, now each and every one of those cards are black. All of them are black inside of my hand. Now, if I had red, black in my hand and I put red, black on the table, what should be on the table now?
Red.
Red, black. Same as before. Black, red. It's just now they're all queens. That's the only difference. Well, thank you. You know, there's a theory that there's an entire universe inside the two dimensions that playing cards occupy. And inside of that cardboard universe, these are not just playing cards. These are actual, in fact, queens. And we're going to give them a little trip here in a second. Here, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to place this onto the table, and we'll set those queens out just so. Okay? So now that we have the queens out, let's see if they share that universe with other things made out of cardboard. And if that were, in fact, true, then these wouldn't just be postcards. They would actually be Lake Tahoe. So with that premise in mind, let's give these ladies a little Lake Tahoe vacation. Now, there's a lot of casinos and clubs in Lake Tahoe, so let's let the Queen of Clubs be our social magnet. Now, the first to go is going to be the Queen of Hearts. She's going to use the power of love to join the Queen of Clubs up in Lake Tahoe. The next to go is going to be the Queen of Spades. She's going to use her shovel to go up in, well, actually, you know what, in the cardboard universe, it's actually not polite to leave them face to face like that. But the next to go is going to be the Queen of Spades digging up with her shovel and through and arriving with the other two in Lake Tahoe, leaving no trail of her trip behind. The last to go is going to be the Queen of Diamonds. Now, with all her money, she buys herself a first-class trip, joining her shallow sisters in the deep end of Lake Tahoe, and that's all 4 cars across. Miracle is based upon the idea of a prearranged stack of cards. 5 cards, 6 cards, 7 cards. Exactly how many is going to be up to you and your own personal preference, but I have set these up 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 in classic chased order. That's clubs, hearts, spades, diamonds. Clubs again. Now, if you wanted to go further, the natural extension from that to away would be the Queen of Hearts. Again, it's just a personal preference. Once you know this order of cards, and you can recall them at any time, the thing to do and the way that we present this particular effect, of course, this concept, this idea of a small stock of cards that you know the order of, and having someone look at that as you're turning your back is an old principle, and people have approached it in different ways. Michael Skinner has got a way of then revealing which one that was thought of. Larry Jennings has a way of revealing it. Each of these guys approaches it in a slightly different way. What we thought would be a good idea would be to have one location that had all those predictions all the time. In a wallet, for example, you have 5 business cards, 6 business cards, and you have these cards written in this order. The top card's got the 2 of clubs. The next card's got, I knew you would think of the 4 of hearts. The next one's got, I knew you would think of the 6 of spades, and so on. And that's in the wallet at all times. Anytime you want, go ahead and call that stock together so that it is in the order that you know that it's going to be in, and then those will go 2, 4, 6, 8 right on top of the deck. Now, this is the kind of thing that time misdirection really serves you well. The longer that you can have that prearrangement of cards available to you before you put it into play, the more deceptive it's going to be. The impression that you want to create is that a block of cards from anywhere in the deck. So what I like to do is kick these cards over, push 2 over, so that I'm actually going to have a break in between 3 and 2 of my stack, so that I can then go in like this and then break the deck in half and just act like I'm tossing cards out from anywhere in the deck. That's one approach. Another approach that you might like to try would be to have the cards on top of the deck and prearrange, let's say, 9 cards on top of those. Now, when the time comes to perform, pushing over those blocks of 3 cards are real easy to do. 3, 6, 9. Then you can just toss some cards out onto the table. It seems as if cards came from the center of the pack. Now you're going to say, I just want you to think of any one of those cards, look at the face, I'm going to turn my back, and here's a very subtle method. You just kind of cheat. You just kind of turn slowly until the moment that they indicate the card that they're going for. Now, the instant that they start to indicate the card that they're going for, you go ahead and complete your turnaround because you know you're so far ahead. You don't have to wait for them to pick it up. But if they were, for example, going to turn this card over, I would know that it's the second card in my stack and it's going to be the 4. At this point, they're thinking of a card while your back is still turned. You tell them to take the cards, mix the cards up, so that nobody knows the order. In fact, go ahead and toss them into the center of the deck and mix those up. And now what you can do while your back is turned, you can go ahead and take out your wallet so that when you turn back around, the wallet is in your hand. Depending on how you want to play it, you may want to put the wallet in your mouth. Turn it around like this, so it's clear you couldn't have done anything funny. Nothing but the wallet. You're thinking of a card. I had a prediction. And now you'll go in and you just take the second card out of your stack, which will then say, all along, I knew you would think of the 4 of hearts. And that's a very magical, mind-reading mystery with a pack of cards. Roy Walton's Oil and Queens. What a misdirected magical moment you get here with the red, black, and the next thing you know, you got a handful of face cards. It's really great. The setup from the top of the deck down is going to be the 4 kings, the 4 queens. There you go. And now you're going to need 5 alternating spot cards. Doesn't matter what the value of these spot cards are. You just want to make sure that they're difficult to remember. That's the main thing. You just add a little element of confusion. Alternating colors. And again, if you choose to do black, red, black, it doesn't matter. Just alternating spot cards. Those are on top of the deck in case you have to pull it together quickly. You don't really need to think too much about what their values are. Now you're going to take 9 cards off the top of the deck as if you're taking 8 cards off the top of the deck. It's a very simple thing. The first pushover, just take 2. And it's just a matter of just pushing over several cards and just pick up 2. You're not throwing a spotlight on this moment. They don't have any idea what's taking place. Just say, look, I want to take some cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cards. It's a little simple something. You might even want to try it at home. All you need to do is make sure that you have no spot cards. You can give a quick flash. Now you're going to apparently show all the cards are red, black, but you're not, again, throwing a direct spotlight on this particular moment. You're just talking about the fact that they're not going to have to remember cards. All they have to do is remember to alternate the colors, red, black, red, black. Now after you've thumbed 4 cards over into your left hand, you're going to have this block over in your right hand. You're now going to switch these 2 blocks as if you're just thumbing that 8 of hearts on over. So leave the entire block in the right hand as you seem to be just thumbing over 1 more red card while continuing to show red, black, and red. So now they just feel like they've seen only 8 cards coming from the top of the deck. All of the cards are alternating red, black spot cards. Continue to nail it down by saying, I'll place onto the table half of those cards, red, black. I'll keep in my hand half of those cards, red, black. And you're just going to hold that double as a single. It's a very simple, you kind of get a free ride on that. There's no need to hold a break or anything. Red, black. Turn them face down. And now you're going to reverse count them. Red, black. Now you're going to take a double. You push the 2, and then you take that single to the bottom. Now that's kind of a little displacement taking place, but under cover of all this red, black, it just seems as if you're counting the cards. And what you've done in moving that 1 to the bottom is set yourself up so that when you turn these over, you can now Elmsley count 4 red cards. It's a very nice, fair show. They've just seen red, black, red, black. Couldn't have been more convincing. You pull off one, push off a block as you take it. Take the next two as singles. Seems to be nothing but red cards there. Turn these over, get rid of those on the deck. What does that remain on the table? Of course, you still got red, black, red, black. It just so happens that now they're queens. And that's from Roy Walton, Whale and Queens. Alternating color queens and 5 alternating color spot cards on top. Break under 2 to show 1 as you take 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Red, black, red, black. You'll now switch all of these for all of these. Underneath, you'll leave these as you seem to be taking another red, black, red, black, red. Red, black, red, black. Red, black, red, black. That's a double. Reverse count, saying red, black. This is going to be a double. Pushed over. Put this one to the bottom. Helmsley count. The Queen Soiree is one of those fabulous effects from Vernon, which nobody seems to be doing these days, in spite of the fact that it has a great effect on a layman. If you've had any experience with the coin matrix, you might want to give a card matrix a try because it's really a fabulous thing. It makes use of only 4 queens and 2 covers. In the old days, the professor used to use small magazines or folded up pieces of newspaper and cause the things to go through a newspaper cover. But really, any kind of cover you want, and the postcards really offer you a nice opportunity for some pattern tie-ins and things like that. And let's say you choose to do this in some sort of resort area, whether it's Las Vegas or Miami or New York or whatever. You can use postcards that relate to that area, and you know, at that final moment, you've got those 2 postcards, so you may even want to consider a final load that would relate to whatever area it is that you're working in. In performing the Queen Soiree, you want to take the cards and give them from the face. You want to give them a bow like this, because when those are turned face down, that little curve in the card is going to make it easy to pick that card up a little later on. You'll show the queens, the red queens, the black queens. As you turn these down, you're going to put the black queen of clubs up here, the queen of spades down here. You'll flash the red queens and set them down. You want to give some kind of a situation like this so that some element of uncertainty without really making a big deal out of it, because you're going to miscall one of these queens. In this particular handing, if you use the pattern that says the Queen of Hearts is going to use the power of love to be the first to go, then you want to put the Queen of Hearts in this upper right corner, because that's going to be the first one you'll steal. Now, using the postcards as covers, you have to steal one of those cards to get one ahead. So very quickly, I move to pick that up in the upper right corner, cover with the other postcard, and then just decide, well, of course, this is the Queen of Clubs. She'll be our social magnet. And you add that first card up in the upper left-hand corner. Now you're going to take this card and miscall it. Oh, the Queen of Hearts is the first to go. Using the power of love, you lift up the scarf, whatever your cover is going to be, act as if the magic takes place, and then come back and load it in the lower left-hand corner where the left fingers will just clip it. But you're not going to show it just yet. You just show that the first card has traveled. And then very fairly place the cover back on top. As you'll act as if you're going to cause the next one to go. And this is just such a nice construction that the professor has here. As the Queen of Spades starts to go under, and now you act like you changed your mind and you bring back, you're going to switch one card for the other here. As you set this down, as you say, these cards shouldn't be face to face, you take the cover, place it into your left hand, and at the moment that you turn this over, you just steal that extra card from underneath the scarf, and then go ahead and place the cover back up into the upper left-hand corner. You take the next card, place it underneath, say now the Queen of Spades is the next to go, and you leave the card in the left fingertips, the lower left corner, as once again you show that the next card has arrived and show that it is the Queen of Spades that they expected to see. Now at this point, so that it's clear at the end that you're going to have a very distinct ending, you want to take this opportunity to show the Queen of Spades has left no evidence of the path that she's taken. Just going to kind of show that there's nothing accumulating underneath the cloth there. And now you'll drop the cover with that extra card into the pile of queens as the Queen of Diamonds buys a first-class ticket to join her shallow sisters in the deep end of Lake Tahoe. And that's Vernon's Queen Soiree. Queen of Hearts. Miss Call. Switch cards. In Miracle, ideally, they should never see you touch the cards before the effect starts. They should never suspect that any stacking has taken place or that you're aware of the position of any of the cards. The longer you separate the performance of the effect from the placement of the cards, the more impossible the effect will seem. In Oil and Queens, point out only spot cards are being used, and emphasize the alternating red-black order as many times as possible. This misdirects their expectations to create the powerful surprise ending. In Queen Soiree, once you accomplish the first steal, it's almost a free ride after that. So time it so that the first steal is accomplished before they even know the effect has begun. It's a casual, non-caring attitude that says nothing important is taking place. Beyond that, it's just a matter of smooth, confident handling that fully focuses on what the spectators think is taking place. Oh, no. Okay. Now, you've probably heard you never want to play cards with a magician many times before, but weren't really sure why. I want to show you why. Don't ever play cards with a magician. There I was gambling one night, and I was playing stud poker, and it was looking pretty bleak. You know, I couldn't get a worse hand to save my life, but fortunately, I'm a magician. And I knew just what to do. As bad as that was, at the very least, I could hope for a little something in the hole, but let's see. Sure enough, it was a 3. Not too good. And that's when I decided to do a little bit of magic. And here's what it looked like. All I do is rub those cards on my sleeve, and the magic happens. See, instead of that bunch of indifferent cards, I now have 1, 2, 3. Oh, Ah, and a joker, or a jack. Well, it sure would be nice to have an ace in the hole if you had a hand like this, and whoop, sure enough, there it is. Isn't that amazing? Ace in the Hole by Nick Trost is your bonus effect for this videotape, and quite a bonus effect it is. Nick's a master at getting the maximum mileage out of just a few playing cards. I mean, you really get a lot of mileage out of just these 5 cards. Look at the spread that you get to show. Virtually the full face of that ace. The 4, the 8, the 10, and yet what you've got are some very cleverly gimmicked playing cards. And of course that ace is gimmicked as well for your kicker. But here's what it all looks like in performance. You'll hold it in your left hand and you'll spread those cards out as full a face as you can. Your thumb is going to be needed to hide that lower corner there as you show a nice wide fan of cards. Looks like not much that I can do with a poker hand like this. There's always the hope, though, that that hole card has something good for me. This is the only move in the entire effect, and it's really quite simple. Square these up. You're going to do a fake turnover of the packet, which means that the left thumb is going to lever at the same time it turns like this. And what you've done is you've created the illusion that you've turned the packet all the way over, when all you've really done is turned it in for in. Show you what is taking place again. You get this wonderful show of 4 face up, 1 face down. You do this maneuver, and now you seem to have 4 face down and a peek at that hole card. Now again, you're still just dealing with those cards that you had there. And now you get to show the actual faces for the payoff, and it's really going to be great. Say, but now as a magician, I get to use a little bit of magic, and now you'll place that 3. And now, since that is that gimmicked ace there, you've got to do it in such a way that it's turned away from you so that you kind of burn that face a little bit. Say, I'll place my hole card onto the table, and I do a little magic here, and now you're going to turn these cards face up in a real nice way of turning them face up so that you get the impression that you're seeing the faces of all those cards, is to, again, do that in for in, turn down. See, by turning it in for in, you're not going to see that. And yet you'll see what seems to be all the backs. And yet you get to turn down and show full faces of all those aces. And, oh, a jack. Well, with a hand like this, it sure would be nice if that hole card was an ace, wasn't it? And here's where you get to use that mispipped card to pick up what they saw set down as a 3 of clubs, and your right thumb is going to cover that lower left pip as it turns face up. And there you see 4 aces, full face, and a jack. Scoop those cards up like this, and you'll get to flash the back of that bottom card that was the hole card, the 3 that changed into an ace, to conclude a lot of magic with just a few cards by Nick Trost. That's Ace in the Hole. From the top down, regular jack, gimmick, 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 mispipped card, broad fan, fake turnover, in for end, an ace in the hole, as well as all effects that take place with a packet of gimmicked cards. The standard rule is only do 1 packet effect per performance. An audience may easily accept you pulling out 1 packet effect as a refreshing change of pace, but if you begin to follow 1 packet effect after another, they begin to become curious about those cards. But 1 packet effect, such as this, and combined with several Regular effects with playing cards can produce an outstanding impact on an audience. In closing, the easiest way to master any of these effects is to cut the condensed procedures for that effect out from your summary page and glue it onto an index card and use that as your guide as you rehearse the effect. You'll know you're on the road to mastery when your fingers know what to do without any conscious thought. A mirror is a good way to generally check what things look like, but the ideal way to perfect your performance is to see it exactly as your audience sees it, by videotaping your practice sessions. It can be an eye-opening and sometimes humbling experience, as I've discovered myself a few times. Finally, thank you for being with us. We all owe a debt of gratitude to the creators who so generously contributed their masterpieces. The best way we can express our gratitude to these artists is to do their creations justice. So practice, use your head, use your heart, and always strive for mastery.